Good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast, way out there in the Pacific, where I'd love to be sailing. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast, where I could almost be sailing in my backyard with water just coming down, but at least the ice is gone. I'm excited to get started in today's training session. I appreciate you putting your comments into the chat, shouting out, saying hi. Hey, Pamela. Hey, Charles and Chris. Bill, good to see you in here. William and others. As I see you coming in, I appreciate you saying hello to each other in the chat. Really, it's just about building a network, right? There's right over there, I got a book that's Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And it's this idea of, we're not selling when we meet people. We're just building our networks, and we have our networks out there and we keep growing. And so it's a great place for us to learn about other people and learn how we can help them. And later, we talk about how they can buy from us or they can work from us, et cetera. But it's such a big network that we have. So I'm really excited that you're engaging in there. I'm going to turn my chat or my little screen things off, and we'll get rocking and rolling here in 2 seconds. Definitely let me know where you dialing in from. Miami, Florida. Thanks, Chris. I see that. I love looking at that stuff because I come back after the fact. I try to focus pretty heavily on the training, but I come back after the fact and I can look and I can say hi to folks who are engaged. By the way, really quick, since you're here earlier than others, if you've got particular topics you want me to train, I always plan my training literally the weekend before the week that I do the training. So if you've got topics that I can do, I'm happy to touch on those topics, put my own spin on it. But really, I don't want random topics. If you've got a particular challenge you're facing, those are always great for me to address. So you can either put them in the comments or send me a email or a LinkedIn message, and I'd be happy to tackle that topic for you because I'm sure other people would want it. Today, I want to talk about how I really won government contracting contracts, right? How I won in the GovCon space. And I want to let you know right now I'm live. Today is February 20th, Friday. And I have just finished up a week. Well, I had to take yesterday off because of the issue. But I just finished up a week where I started with the 5 things I did right in my business before, and then the 5 things I did, the 5 biggest mistakes I had, and so similar training like that this week, and this is kind of culminating on that. And I just wanted to share this insight because I have been a government contractor. I do know what it's like to be in the shoes of anybody who's in any particular role within a government contracting company. I've done those things and I've worked on it. Plus, I've prepared for a long time, and so I'm really excited about sharing some lessons today. If you've been following my trainings for a little while or a long while, then some of them should seem familiar, but hopefully I'll give you a really tactical insight into what I look at and say, this is what did it for me. I really believe that government contracting is a process, right? I think winning federal revenue should be predictable for your company, and it should not be a surprise. If you have a plan, like if you get in a car, for example, you should not be surprised where you end up. Unless somehow that's what you want to do is go, I'm just going to drive and see where I go. I've literally done that. But generally, do not pack up your car and head out of your house or your hometown or something with no destination in mind. You almost always have a destination. And that destination is where you're setting your goal. And you achieving that should be predictable. And you achieving federal revenue should be predictable. I'm going to get $1 million this year. I'm going to get $10 million this year. $50 million this year, whatever the realistic expectation is, it should not be a surprise. It should be predictable. And I want to talk about that as we go forward. If you're just getting started right now in business, or you're stuck at, maybe a revenue level, 2 million, 3 million, whatever, and you're not growing at the pace you want, then this is why I'm doing this training today. It's like to say, well, this is what really helped us grow and helped me grow 2 different government contracting businesses. In my career, I've won a ton of contracts, prime contracts, and way more subcontracts, right? So I was really good at building teams, et cetera, and getting on teams. But in almost every single major defense and civilian agency. So when you think about the CFO agencies, or these things, the chief financial officer agencies, there's 24 of them. And we've won in almost every single one of them, or I've won them in my companies, right? And we've done it by following processes. And that's the process I want to show you, is what I followed that goes towards success. I'm going to break today's training up into 3 sections. The first thing that you need to have in place in order, or that we had in place, right, to have success, was having a clear, focused offer. And I'll dive into that, but that is the most important thing about success in government, in any business. You must have a clear, focused offer. There's a book out there, somebody mentioned again today on my LinkedIn post. They were referencing this book called E-Myth. And if you haven't read it, go ahead and read it. It's a great book for entrepreneurs, but it's this myth behind entrepreneurism, like it's some magical thing. It's like, no, it's a lot of work. And one of the things it talks about is if you have you can't just have a bakery. You have to decide, well, what are you selling within that bakery, right? Are you selling pies? Are you selling cakes? Are you selling bread? All these different things you could sell. In a pie shop, for example, where I go to get my Thanksgiving pies, a pure pie shop knows what they're doing, and they have focus on it, and then everything kind of builds from that. I'll talk about that. Second thing is it's really important to crawl before you walk, and that is what we did. I did this both times when I started both my government contracting businesses. I crawled before I walked, and this is vital. And then the last one is we built strategic relationships. Strategic relationships are ones where there's this mutual growth, and that was a huge part of our success going forward, is building these strategic relationships. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. I'd encourage you to follow me on LinkedIn if you're not on LinkedIn already or following me. And subscribe to my newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter, where I put out tips for your success. An example of something I post out there as content is I shared this morning the 5 biggest mistakes I made as a government contractor. And this is coming after I did a training about it. But you can go in and see those tips really quickly. The other thing I really like about it is you can see people in our market, our network, who are engaging with it, and you're able to see and grow with others. So definitely follow me on LinkedIn. And then I'll plan out the training for next week and the coming weekend here. Let's go ahead and get started on a clear, focused offer, right? One of the most important things for any of us, and certainly what I did when I started both my government contracting businesses, was I had a clear, focused offer. I made sure we sold one thing each time. I feel like it might have been pretty easy for me because when I started my first government contracting business, we did enterprise server management. I was coming out of the Army. I had worked for the Secretary of the Army, but I happened to also, on this side, had become a network engineer, and I had gotten certifications, certified network engineer, certified network administrator, and these were big deal certifications back then. So I was very employable. And when I came out, I dabbled around for 6 months, but I was instantly able to find a customer that I landed as my first one because I had a clear, focused offer. I think I might say it in the next slide, but we were known as the server guys, right? So enterprise server management, we were taking care of people's computers. But it was really easy for people to know what we did and where we fit. We didn't say that we did, I was about to say we didn't do cabling, but I went back and thought, it's like, well, we did do cabling, but we didn't say we did cabling. We did server stuff, and they gave us cabling business and this other activity. But we didn't say we did database management. We didn't say we were doing project management and some of these other things. And I'm a PMP, a project management professional. But we didn't say any of that. I didn't say any of that when I started. I just was a server guy, and I found myself a spot. And so that clear, focused offer helped drive everything. My second company, I was doing Microsoft SharePoint work. And so I had Microsoft SharePoint certifications like Microsoft Mail certification, Microsoft Certified Engineer, but it was like before they had another version. But anyways, that's what we did. And so I started a business that was focused on providing Microsoft SharePoint services. These clear, focused offers allowed me to, focus, saying, this is what I sell. This is what I'm going to go try to find. Hey, we do SharePoint. You know, anybody needs SharePoint? You know, I didn't say we do everything. We do IT. I didn't say we do information technology. Even though we did, right? I focused, or what we call niching down to one thing. And by doing that, I was able to keep FOMO, the fear of missing out on other opportunities, from controlling my activity or my actions. If I had said that I do IT services, for example, or if I didn't even bother niching down, I'm about to say something, and I don't mean anybody in particular, and I don't mean to offend. But if a small business right now says to me, we do cloud, cyber, and data, then I know they're not focused. Because even Booz Allen, a multi-billion-dollar company, that's a big lift for them. Literally, if you look at their website, it probably says they do cloud, cyber, and data with AI, right? We smalls aren't doing everything. So we have to say we do one thing. But fear of missing out makes us think if we say we only do SharePoint, then they're not going to give us server management or cybersecurity, or they're not going to give us software development type contracts or help desk or any of these other things, or even going farther away from just a technology play. But that's not how sales works, and that's not how business growth works. And this is something we were able to do that enabled us to win revenue early on, and then keep stacking that revenue. Is we said we did this one thing, a clear, focused offer, what they call a core competency, right? What we call a core competency in government contracting is a clear, focused offer. It's a niched down service that we offer. Another quick example is I had a customer doing construction, and she primarily would say, we do flooring, I think that was painting, flooring, and elevators. And so and I don't know construction, or I didn't know construction, I learned a lot. But as I started learning about construction and seeing where it was at and talking to her, I began to understand some were more important than others. But when I had a conversation with her about niching down, which one do you like doing? Which one is the most profitable? Questions like that. She was like, oh, elevator services. We're certified elevator engineers. And actually, I like it. You're kind of in, you're out, and it's the highest profit margin for us. I was like, well, there you go. You picked it. And so she picked elevator services. And when you do, you start hearing about opportunities, and all these things happen. And that's what happened with me and my businesses. And then for her and for me, once we're in with a customer who likes us, then we can take care of the FOMO. Then we can say, oh, I noticed you also need new floors. You want me to replace them? Or I could say, hey, I see you need new software. We can help you develop it or whatever. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But the problem with FOMO is it makes you be disorganized or distracted. Sometimes we call it a shiny object syndrome, or chasing two squirrels type thing. And you're chasing too many things out there, and no one can know what you're doing. And really, you don't know what you're chasing. The last thing I have here is that by having a clear, focused offer, I avoided other people setting my strategy. This is a really important thing, because I could go into meetings and people will say, well, you should think about this. You should go into this agency. You should be thinking about these services. I'm like, no, thanks. I know what I do. I do this. I do enterprise server management, or I do Microsoft SharePoint services. That's what we're great at. And because I had such confidence in that offering, and you need to make sure you have a offering that you can be confident in, because I had that confidence, I could have that conversation with people and say, this is what we do. This is where we fit. And so people would, instead of trying to tell me what else I should be doing, there's a lot of cabling jobs. You should really think about that. Or, cybersecurity, that's the up and coming. I'm like, so that's not my area of expertise at the moment. Someday I might do cyber. But right now I do server management, or right now I do Microsoft SharePoint services. Well, pretty soon I got really good at training the people who wanted to help me and who were around me. I got them to focus on what I was trying to sell, Microsoft SharePoint services, and not for them to create a strategy for me of where I should go. I'm like, you run your business, I will run my business, and we will help each other achieve our individual goals. It's similar, if you're in a relationship at any level, you want to take care of yourself. I don't need to be improving my wife's life and telling her all the things that she should be doing. It's like, oh, you should take up chess, or you should go out doing this. It's like, no, you should shut up. Like, she's got her life, I got my life. My job's to help her succeed, and hers is to help me succeed, right? And if you think about people you're talking to in business, it's kind of that same thing. Don't try to tell people what they should do. Listen to what they want to do and see if you can help them. And here's the last thing on this is if you don't have a clear focused offer, people won't know how to help you. They will want to help you, but they won't know how. Because I had a clear focused offer, it enabled us to win more federal contracting at a steadier pace, subcontracting and then prime contracting. By the way, this is a thirsty business. As I switch over, do me a favor to the next slide, put in the chat, what is your clear focused offer? Look at mine where I said my first company was enterprise server management. My second company was Microsoft SharePoint Services. What could you put in, just like 3 words or less, right? What could you put in that into the chat that says what you do? And go ahead and put that right now. Let me give you a second to do that. While you're doing that, I will tell you, I could also just say what I did in my first and second companies in 1 word. My first company, we did servers. My second company, we did SharePoint. That's the level of tightness of focus of what you sell you want to have. And if you struggle with that, right, I have a ton of training where you can go learn about how to tighten down that focus. I've done probably 100 trainings on just focused offer and really shaping yours. Okay. So I'm going to get into the next one, which is the second thing we did that helped us win contracts here was we crawled before we walked. I don't know if you have kids or if you've ever heard this, but for humans, it is actually not a good thing for them to go from not really being mobile to walking. Like somebody like me might be proud. It's like, oh, hey, my child just instantly started walking, just bypass that crawl stage. Well, anybody who knows what they're talking about would be like, oh my gosh, you just did that child kind of a disservice, because for humans, it's really important they crawl before they walk. I don't get into the science of it, right? But I'm a parent of 12-year-old twin boys, and I learned enough about this idea of the mobility that they get, the things that happen within their brain development that comes from crawling before they get to walking is vital. And for small businesses, it's the same thing. We must crawl before we walk. And that's a big challenge for small businesses, because we come in and we're pretty strong. We're able to stand and walk, right? And so to me, the walking is trying to do more than you're ready for. An example is prime contracting with federal agencies before you've done all the pre-work of other contracts, et cetera. Or trying to team up with a multi-billion-dollar company before you got any federal revenue, right? That's walking or even running. And so what I'm suggesting is we got to crawl, and that's what we did. I did this very well. Is both my GovCon companies, I crawled before I walked, right? I started off being personally billable, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. This is great. I'm looking at the chat. I really appreciate you guys putting it in there. Data analytics, right? Brett, if I took off Brett's nationwide, it's surface coating, and then he added in nationwide saying we can do this everywhere. Durable medical equipment, right? These are good things that are in there. Bill, honing your pitch. Okay, so the first thing that I did as it relates, and I want to encourage you to do, even if you've been in business a while, right, and you're re-looking at it, is we had realistic expectations for growth. And so I have this rule about how small businesses should grow. You think about dances are a 3-step or a 2-step dance. In this particular case, growth in revenue should come in 3 steps, right? These steps can have interesting levels to them, but basically 3 steps. The first thing you need to do is feed your family. The second thing you need to do is then once you're doing that, then you get others to feed you. And the third thing is once you've got that going, now you focus on growing your company. And a lot of us sometimes come in and we start focusing on growing our company. It's like, whoa. I know somebody tells us to work on your business, not in your business, but that's not for day one. Day one, you need to feed yourself and your family. What this means is that through your own effort, you need to be bringing in to your company enough revenue that pays whatever money you need. And so for somebody doing products, for example, or somebody who's doing something that they can't personally do, let's say they're a staffing company or a product company, then maybe you need to stay in your previous job or wherever you're getting money and start getting that early on. But for those of us who are doing service-based businesses, so I did server management, I did SharePoint, and I was the engineer on both of those. Basically, I just needed to get a job. And I say this in a different way than I've heard other people explain. But basically, you can get paid three different ways, basically, right? You can get a job, a W-2 job where you're an employee of ABC company. Or I can get a consulting gig with ABC company as a 1099 consultant. So they're just, I'm giving my social security number, but I'm not an employee of theirs. They're just paying me a consulting fee, $100 an hour or whatever. Or I can get a job with that company as a 1099, what we call corp to corp, right? And I'm not trying to overly go into the technical of the business side, but basically now instead of my social security, they have my company's EIN, which is basically the entity identification number. That's the tax number for a business. And that's what they're using. So they're paying the company. That's called subcontracting, right? So you can do those three. And so when I started both of my businesses, I went in as a 1099 corp to corp with them. So I wasn't doing what a lot of people might think of subcontracting yet. Where you have a team and I'm part of that team or something. Instead, I was going in there and I was working on something. So I gave two examples here. My first company, my first customer was Radian. They're they just happen to be a huge multi-billion-dollar environmental firm. But the office I supported was tiny. It had like 50 or 75 people. So really that was my customer. And I was in there doing server management. And then the second company, I was at Booz Allen. They had SharePoint needs, developing project management related SharePoint solutions in SharePoint. And so I was able to get first a 1099 with them and then as an individual, and then switched it over and said, hey, we got a company. I just need to change to 1099. And so we had that, right? I was billing out, I don't know, 250, 300 grand in there, which is more than enough to feed a new entrepreneur, right? And then it was time to move to the second phase, get others to feed you. And this is what I mean about crawling before I walked. Now I started bringing other people in. So my first company at Radian, I was literally in the server room a lot of my time. And I hated that because back in the day, it's freezing. Well, even today it's freezing, but you don't have to go in there. But back in the day, you had to go in. It was freezing. I'm like, I'm changing this. And so I talked with my customer and I said, hey, you have additional needs I can do here. Can I bring somebody in and they'll take care of the server room and I will take care of this new thing, but I'll be available anytime you need me. Sure, go ahead. And so I did this in the Booz Allen standpoint. I did the same thing. Hey, can we bring somebody else in that will take care of this SharePoint development? And pretty soon we started expanding our business within Radian and within Booz Allen, right? And so we're building up our business in there by identifying other small needs. We haven't got into big teaming or anything yet. And then the last thing is I start growing my company. I start looking at Booz Allen and seeing if I might be able to get on their teams. Really, actually, that was hard. They would pay us millions of dollars to do their dirty work in SharePoint, but they wouldn't put us on teams yet. But we turned elsewhere, and you can go learn, see some of my stories. But we turned to small businesses, and those small businesses we were able to start teaming with now and start growing the company because I no longer had to be billable. If you watch my biggest mistake, one of my problems is I remained billable in both companies almost the entire time. It was the stupidest mistake I ever made. I was still able to grow the company, but I never let myself have the freedom of being back and working on the bigger things. But that's another thing. So this is the lesson from this slide, right? We crawled before we walked, and this enabled us to grow steadily, get past performances and experience that people appreciated as we moved forward to the next stage. First, we established trust. Then they trusted our people. Then they brought us in to trust us with their customers. Okay, so the third thing that I did here, I'm just tracking the time, that works really well to helping us win federal contracts and win in the GovCon space is we built strategic relationships. This is vital. Strategic relationships are not networking. All of us in here today, we're part of a network, right? We like each other and we're growing around, but a strategic relationship is one with another company or person that is designed for mutual growth, right? You're committed to mutual growth. I'm committed to your growth. You're committed to mine. And our actions, not our words, demonstrate that commitment. And so there's 3 strategic relationships that we did to build our company as we went forward. Both companies, I built them, right? And in the beginning, it was me building these relationships. And then the nature of both of my companies is I just had people who they were very good at organic growth and building trust and relationships. So the first group that we did is we built strategic relationships coming out of that, get others to feed you to growing your company. We came out and started building relationships with small businesses doing about $5 million. This is a really important part for us because they totally remember what it was like to be us, and just getting started and trying to figure out how to get a security clearance or even get any kind of federal work, right? And the other thing is they didn't do everything. They didn't remotely do everything. And so when we came in with server management or came in with like SharePoint in our my last company, I still remember Ted is this guy who took a chance on us. I started telling people, and they introduced me to this guy, Ted, who was doing government contracts. He had government contracts, but he did not do SharePoint. It's like, sure, come on in. It took me reaching out to a handful of people to get to that stage, right? But about 100 people, and you'll find your Ted to grow. And so that's what we did, is we built strategic relationships with several different small businesses that were succeeding, that we could help them get more revenue, and we would get 20 to 49% of a contract. The second thing is we got on contract vehicle, what I call alerts. There's 3 ways you can get on a contract vehicle. You can win it. You can be a team member on with a prime who's won it. So what I call a named subcontractor, or you can be an unnamed subcontractor. That's my term. And it just means you connect with somebody who's on a contract vehicle and they agree, like GSA or Seaport, to put you into the portal so you can see. Or if all they're doing is getting an email from the government saying, hey, here's new notices, you could be just automatically forwarded those emails. So you could go back to that prime contractor and say, hey, we can help. And so as I built forward, I built strategic relationships with people who had the prime contracts, the contract vehicles that would most likely have SharePoint related needs. And then the last thing is we became trusted advisors to federal leaders. Keep in mind, this requires you to be inside the wire. You have to be helping the government one way or another. So my last company, we started doing this with the Department of Veterans Affairs when we were in supporting their hospitals. And I was a subcontractor, but again, Ted let us do anything. He's like, and we were so loyal to him. We kept bringing prime contracts back until the day he goes, you guys should prime. Thanks, Ted. But we were very, very loyal to him. But we built trusted advisorship by doing good work and then being able to have the conversations with the customer about what their out years need to look